Welcome everybody to the second Star Trek Gaming Summit on Twitch and YouTube. I'm of course your host, Captain Sedaris, and joining me is the master of Discord servers and Elite Force servers, Seven Saturn. Hi there.
And I thought I was the master of fart noises.
No, that's only behind the curtain.
Where else?
I'm of course also happy to have again a full Discord server here. And yeah, basically welcome back, Winters. How are you doing? How is the Armada?
I'm doing really good. Thank you very much. And thanks so much for having me back on. The community is going really, really good. We just wrapped up our 11-year anniversary there a month or two ago. And yeah, things are, going strong.
Next then we have Maxloef from Stellar Parallax. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. My first time here. Yeah, we're doing great. We just announced Armada 4. Yeah, not the real one, but the fake one, the fan-made one. For Sims 2. That just came out. So yeah, lots of hype in the community around that. So doing absolutely smashing.
Can't wait to hear more about this later. But let's go down the list a little bit more. We also have Epytron here, a longtime modder of Star Trek Armada and Sins of a Solar Empire. Hi there.
Hi there. How's everybody doing today?
Well, not bad. I'm quite happy to announce that summer is finally gone in Austria. I can think again in my room.
I wish summer was gone over here on the west coast of the United States.
I'm curious, what temperature do you have?
Let's see. Currently, it is 81 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which for the rest of the world is?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. 29 degrees.
Oh, damn. That is no fun.
Yeah, that's pretty much summer, yeah.
Then we have, of course, for the first time ever here, Tenacity, a long-time Star Trek gamer and host of the classic Star Trek gaming Discord. Hi, sir.
Howdy, thanks for having me. Here on the east coast of the US, it is 64 Fahrenheit and 17 Celsius.
Oh, much more better.
More like home.
It's also wet and foggy outside.
The perfect weather, basically, to overclock your PC. We always have to think about those important parts in our life.
People still overclock their PCs?
I mean, some vendors sell it like that.
Exactly, most vendors do it for us. Now we are in the business of undervolting our hardware because they eat so much power. We need a nuclear power plant basically to have a running PC.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I remember the time of the 880 and all those sort of cards where people would have 1,000-watt power supplies in their PCs. Those days are long gone.
I had a dual GPU setup at one point.
Oof.
Oh, man.
I had a Super Nintendo once.
Let me guess, you were still sweating.
Well, if it's in mint condition, it's maybe more worse than some graphics cards today.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Don't hold your breath.
Oh, we would never do that. But what we are doing here is definitely talk about Star Trek gaming. Yeah, last year we had very high hopes of the future. Sadly, the last release was, much of a disappointment, I would say. Before we started, I asked a few of you, did you play Star Trek Infinite? Most of you said no, I would never touch that.
Yes, I have.
How long?
Well, see, Stellaris started boring me quite quickly, so it wasn't really my kind of game to begin with, but it got me gripped fairly well, except that certain things were just a little bit glitchy. I felt like there was a lot of potential to be had, and I did have some talks with the developers back in the day about it, and I thought it had promise, especially with some of the stuff they were doing in regards of the focus tree that they got similar to a Hearts of Iron. But unfortunately, the game became a victim of the Embracer Group scandal / all the layoffs that were happening back in the day or back then. So we'll never know how it could have turned out. I know for a fact they had the Jem'Hadar plan though, but that's about it. Or the Dominion more specifically, but we'll never know.
Since I only bought it for the message, I'm totally not sure if this still is the case. Did they ever include all the Star Trek canon sounds? Last time I watched a YouTuber, it wasn't included. I think this is really unbelievable that a developer is doing such a thing in an official product.
I mean, I think that has to do also partially with the fact that, they might not have gotten the official sounds. Like fan projects, we can just grab our sounds from wherever we want them. Official productions are always a bit more different, where you have to get through checks with your, with the CBS Paramount. You're like, hey, am I allowed to use this? Can I get this? So, I can imagine that would also be a bit more of a difficult process. But I guess Resurgence got it right, so...
I mean, this is essentially an interesting question. Who basically blocked it? Did they not even ask, or did the IP owner say, no, you don't get it from us, or was it too expensive? This kind of thing would be interesting for me as a gamer, because, of course, as a Star Trek gamer, you want to immerse yourself. You want to have the experience, and then you get that. Okay, bummer.
Mm-hmm. As somebody who never played Stellaris, I couldn't even get through the tutorial. But I'm also not big into those type of games myself.
What convinced you to buy it?
I bought the game just because it's a Star Trek game, and I want to keep supporting those games. That way, other developers in the future would potentially want to keep making them.
For the record, I didn't buy it. I got it.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I had it gifted to me, and it is what it is. Like it's a Star Trek game. Yeah, it's a little hard to get through, unfortunately, because of the way that it's designed. But it's Star Trek game.
The beta?
No, my friend NerfGunCharlie, who some of you might have heard of, he just recently released his project for Star Trek Armada 1, and he is actually polishing off future tense for Armada 1 to be released to the public with Adam Phantom's blessing. But he said that he wanted to look at a couple of the models up close, and so he gifted me a copy of it.
I got mine from the developers back then.
How are the models in that game when you look at them up close?
Some are really great.
Oh yes,
like
some are fantastic.
Like the Sovereign's great, the Intrepid's great, the Cerritos, like the Bird of Prey, Vorcha, the Galore, Kelvin, most of the canon ships, with very much the exception of the Excelsior, which is very, very wrong.
Oh yes,
but they're great. They're custom designed stations. I'm like, yeah, they did some cool stuff there. However, some of their custom ships are just terrible. Like the Romulan Bird of Prey, like they have like a TNG style Bird of Prey. It's bad, and the Cardies as well.
Like in low polygons, wrong geometry, shitty textures.
Just design bad.
Okay. Because I'm a total noob. I got my hands on this kind of work, but it's basically baby steps. I always wonder what qualifies as good and what qualifies as bad. I have no idea.
I can accept a lower poly model, right? So, like, for example, like Armada 1 and 2, like their models are low poly, but they look like the thing they're supposed to. But when you have like two canon designs, like say the Galore and the Kelvin, or the Faldor and the Deridex, and they look great, and they have like this design next to it, which is like their own design thing they came up with, and it just doesn't match. That bothers me more.
Absolutely.
I think if you go to the official page, you might be able to find a screenshot of that Romulan one. Let me see if I can grab it.
I had a picture saved somewhere of like all of the stations and ships for each side, so that way you can like compare them.
Another thing that's also really good in the game is the portraits of all the characters. They're really great.
I wonder, was the game moddable?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Just as moddable as Stellaris.
Sadly, it doesn't have any longer any support.
Yep.
Like the last update was in December.
Yeah, just a few months after the release.
Which is also very awesome for, the prospect of buying this stuff.
Yeah, normally I wouldn't dissuade people from getting an official Star Trek product, but don't bother with it. It's dead. Don't.
But hey, at least it was a game on PC, not another crappy mobile game.
Oh no, actually that was the most recent one that released, right? They released that on Steam. Oh, the shitty mobile game.
Resurgence was, I think, technically the latest one to hit Steam.
No, there was another one. What was it called? It's terrible.
You mean Fleet Command?
No, Legends. Just dropped September 2nd. It's bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
I don't count mobile games as real PC games, so I will never install them on my PC.
I think you're not alone there.
Actually, there's one game that I play on my phone that I actually play on Steam as well. It's called Infinite Lagrange, or Lagrange, depending on the region you were in. It's interesting. It's a online game where you're playing with other players and you're exploring star systems and building up your base and everything like that. But it is a time suck.
Oh,
I'm
this
impressed
game
with
must
that
so this game Star Trek Legends must have released in like a beta state or something, because it has the release date of September 2nd.
Yeah.
Like it definitely released more than 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely. It was on mobile first. I think it like released on PC for now.
But it's
Yeah.
like an obvious like mobile game they ported to PC.
Got released a couple of years back, if I'm not mistaken.
Funny thing is like, so this is a mobile game they ported to PC. Its recent reviews are mostly positive.
Yeah, I think because they don't have any loot boxes in it.
Also, sadly, there isn't much option for Star Trek fans if they want to buy anything new.
Well, thank God for good old games that has most of the games.
I think the critical part is what someone actually used as a phrase, a crappy mobile game. I bet you can do a good mobile game. I'm pretty sure you can, but the majority of stuff that is being released usually is not worth the time.
I actually have a great concept for a mobile game. Just port the old Starfleet command games to mobile, because I feel like the UI of those games and the fact that there's no 3D movement would be great for a mobile device.
Don't give them ideas.
yeah.
They probably include microtransactions.
Oh, definitely.
Just
Oh,
like
you want to play as the
Star-
Romulans? Oh, you have to pay us $10.
No. You need to get 15 special crystals that you can either get for real money or you have to wait 24 hours per crystal.
Oh, jeez.
But if you really
Like-
think
like
about it, though,
man.
like the way that the Starfleet command games had like that Dynaverse, if you could just like play that on the go on your phone, it would probably be pretty amazing, actually.
Like Max said, don't give them any ideas. So maybe we switch topics and talk basically now about the current state of Star Trek gaming. And yeah, I would say we start with the biggest community, Star Trek Online. So Winters, what is new in the land of Star Trek Online?
What is new? Well, they're always releasing new ships. They actually just had a recent update like a week or two ago, and they put in a bunch of lower decks stuff into the game, which everybody like lost their minds over. So for example, you can now get Badgie as a non-combat pet and a combat pet. And the animations, like, when Badgie comes out and he starts laughing, and next thing he pulls out a knife and he jumps on the back of, a Voth or something, he starts stabbing them like it's crazy. Agamus is also in the game. Samuel Clemens costume. Yeah, a bunch of stuff from Lower Decks they recently just added to the game. But like I said, they're always releasing new ships. Like that's an ongoing thing. Every couple of months there'll be a new ship in a new lockbox or in the Zen store or something like that,
Yeah, they added a lot of ships from other games. I really was surprised that we see games from Star Trek Armada and Dominion Wars even.
That's right. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the names of them now, and I'm blanking. I want to say
Achilles.
We have the
Um,
Premonition, the Typhon,
Yep.
and the Achilles.
There you go.
I wonder how they integrated the premonition story-wise.
They didn't. Like with most things in Stowe, it's just
Yeah.
it's an MMO.
It's behind a lockbox, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Also was surprised that they even added hand weapons basically from Elite Force, the iMod, for example.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did add that. I want to say that was a couple of months ago.
I mean, this is basically, in general, an interesting idea. I mean, considering when Voyager came back from the Data Quadrant, came home, they had a whole lot of stuff in their trunk, that would help fight the Borg and so on and so on. And
Mhm.
exploring the possibilities, the fallout from this mere event alone would be interesting.
Do you maybe know what the current plans are for Star Trek Online? Did you have any insights maybe from the devs?
So they released a statement. Basically, we were expecting a season release like a week ago, but they released a statement, and so I don't know. Do you want me to go into the whole Embracer group Deca Games debacle, or are you aware of what happened there and Cryptic Studios?
No, doesn't ring a bell.
So, Embracer Group bought Perfect World. As I'm sure some of you here know, Embracer, the story as I understand it is they bought a ton of companies or studios, and they lost a crap ton of money. So long story short, anyway, they're moving the license from Cryptic Studios to Deca Games, which is a European-based studio. So what's currently happening is the current devs are training up the new devs. A lot of the devs from Cryptic Studios have already left Cryptic Studios because basically it's going to be wiped out completely. We don't know for certain, but I suspect what happened was because of all the money they lost, they said, right, with X amount of development costs, we can get X amount of money per year. So after so many years, we can make our money back. So where can we make cuts? And one of the only places they could probably make cuts is in salaries. And I'm willing to bet that they said to the devs of Cryptic Studios, you can keep your job, but you have to take a pay cut. And a bunch of them said, yeah, no, I'm going for a job somewhere else. And they've since left Cryptic Studios, so there isn't that many of them left. The few that are left are training up a whole new dev team on the engine in Deca Games. And going back to what I was saying a minute or two ago, they released a statement saying, look, we're still in the training phase. We could release a season now with a whole new story, or new story mission, but it wouldn't be up to the quality. So they said, right, we'll release this Lower Deck stuff, and we'll have a really awesome story for you guys for the anniversary early next year. So we were expecting a season release, and we didn't get that. We just got like a minor update. But that's basically the gist of what's sort of going on now, because it was a whole huge mess, this whole Embracer Group thing, and them losing so much money from all these studios that they bought. At least that's the story as far as I know it.
Holy cow. So Star Trek Online is at the moment at least in maintenance mode.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, well, actually, no, not a couple of months ago. I want to say it's sort of the first quarter of this year, we were talking within Priority One about this. And some of the guys suspected that there was going to be like huge cutbacks, story content and what have you. And the future of Star Trek Online was very, very shaky. I didn't necessarily agree with that because I thought that would be a really bad business move for Embracer / Deca. I would imagine if they're looking to make their money back, they would have to say, right, if we pay X amount, so let's just say $1 million a year in salaries, and we can make $20-30 million, whatever it is, a year annually for that much of investment, then after so many years, basically what I'm saying is that they won't want to rock the boat. Because if they cut back on the story content and releasing new stories and systems and stuff like that, the game wouldn't really last. I don't think. I mean, if they're not coming out with new stuff, I'm not going to stick around.
I mean, call me cynical, but it does already feel like STO is sort of dying. But
well, I was
it's
really
a valid
surprised.
point.
Yeah, it is. But I was surprised. You were saying there, Sedaris, about in maintenance mode. But one of the things that we talked about earlier in the year was, and I actually said it, I was like, I think they're in maintenance mode. They're not breaking new ground. They're not taking any chances. They're not doing anything. And I know it's not a huge thing, but they did come out with a new feature, which they call the Captain Alteration Token, where you can change the species and the gender of your character with a token that you purchase in game. And that was like a totally new thing that they had never done before. And I was like, all right, okay. So, you've got some ideas and you're thinking a little bit, So I don't, it's still early days, I guess. We'll have to wait until I'd say next year's anniversary to see what this new story mission is going to be like and see what the content releases are going to be like after that. Are they going to be the same old or are they going to be cutting them back and, like you said, going into maintenance mode, or are they going to keep the content coming out at a regular pace?
Well, if they are going into maintenance mode, maybe they can give us back our foundry.
Oh God,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, that'd be nice.
Then this game can run forever.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I think Stowe would have been better if they didn't want to have everybody as a cameo in an episode, because that cannot have been cheap.
That's true.
But of course, it also brought a lot of players.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, I have my problems with Stowe in general, in terms of, like, I played since closed beta, so I have put in a lot of hours into Stowe. I just feel like somewhere along the way they lost their vision, because they keep adding new effects and new things, but the game engine is so old at this point that when you're running a TFO and people start plopping their abilities down, the game will not be able to handle what's being rendered on screen, which for me personally makes it a visual mess that you can't really tell what's going on. This is not like, somebody's computer issue. Like, you can have the beefiest PC or the crappiest PC with the lowest settings, and after a while, stuff just stops being rendered. You've got like half of the particles showing on screen, and you've got a whole bunch of numbers flying in the air. I mean, to me, that's where I lost the fun.
You actually just mentioned something there, and it reminded me, apparently, you probably know this already, but Deca Games is apparently going to do a cost-benefit analysis on an engine change. Now, I know people are always talking about, they need to update the engine, and the engine's so old, and it's this, that, and the other. I think a lot of people don't appreciate what that actually means. So you're probably familiar with Lighting 2.0?
Yes,
when that came out.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was an engine update. It was the current engine being updated and doing whatever. But an engine change, it'd be like putting a turbojet engine into a Prius.
Oh yeah, I know the technical constraints that this would take,
right?
Or the technical difficulties that this would entail.
You would literally be talking about rebuilding the entire game from scratch.
Well, that's not entirely true. We're talking just about the graphics engine here, not the underlying code of how things and abilities work.
But the thing is, one engine's code isn't the same as another engine's code. Like, the only thing they would literally be able to salvage from the old engine would be the audio files. They would literally have to rebuild all the ships and all the systems.
I mean, it always depends on how it was modeled, of course. If it was being done properly, it's not the biggest of deals, but it is still a lot of work to get it done again properly.
Yeah. Like, I've had this conversation with so many people, and I wouldn't even like to guess, like, to bring the game up to where it is now on a new engine, I'm picking a number out of the sky, but 6 years, 4 to 6 years of an entire development team.
Oh, but you misunderstand me. Sorry, I don't mean a completely new engine. I feel like they need to look into just the particle engine and some other things and what players can do. There's too much going on at once for the engine to handle. That can be solved in two ways. You can switch game engines completely, which I don't think is a good idea, because that would take years. Like, a decent MMO takes 5-6 years in each development, and that's well, here you've already got the concepting done. But I feel like they should have a serious look at how much stuff gets rendered on screen.
Yeah, the power thing is definitely an issue. Like, there's been so many updates down through the years. It is definitely an issue.
There's too much being spammed on screen at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. But like I said, apparently Deca is doing a cost-benefit ratio for an engine change. They're doing an analysis on that. Is it worth it, basically? I do know from having talked to a lot of the devs, like, down through the years, like, they've said that they can't really do much more with the current engine. They're already pushing the limits of what it can do, So an update to the engine, I don't know. I can only go from what they've said to us down through the years. It doesn't sound like they can do much more with it. So the only option is an engine change, which is a whole redevelopment of the entire game.
What I find interesting about that is if you look at Star Wars: The Old Republic, they just recently started doing updates to everything with graphics changes and stuff like that. And I'm not sure how long that was in development before they started pushing that stuff out.
Right, but if I remember correctly, they're on Unreal, aren't they? Unreal Engine.
That's a good question. I don't know specifically.
Somebody was having this conversation, and they went, "Oh well, the Old Republic is going from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5," and I was trying to explain to them, "Yes, but it's the same code, it's the same engine."
Right.
So the Old Republic doesn't run on Unreal.
I don't know. Basically, what I'm
it
saying,
runs on the Hero engine. So.
all right, okay, but the point was they were saying, "Oh, they're upgrading from this to this," and it was the same engine. It was just an update to the engine. It wasn't an engine change.
So probably not a whole lot of totally different concepts and stuff. So
Right.
it's related.
The same code.
Well, we will see what the future is bringing for Star Trek Online. I hope at least that we get some new content in this year. No, it's not long until next year, but I would like another mission.
I don't think we're going to see any story content for the rest of this year. The autumn event is going on at the minute. We're going to go from there into the Halloween event, from there into probably a Red Alert, and from there then into part 6 of the event campaign, and then we're into the winter event and the end of the year. That's how I see the rest of this year going for Star Trek Online.
That would be very sad because this year we didn't get much story-wise.
Yeah, but a lot of the time has been apparently spent with this whole debacle with Embracer, Deca, Cryptic, training up a whole new dev team. And remember, like it's what, a 15-year-old engine, and as they've admitted themselves, when the game was initially built, like there's this total spaghetti code in the back end of the engine because they built the game in 14 months. So there was corners cut, and trying to train a whole new dev team on the ins and outs, I can only imagine how difficult that would be.
And I mean, considering how most of the other Star Trek games are doing or did, I mean, it had a really long run. So even if it were to let's say shut down or be frozen and stay the way it is, comparing it with the rest, it's already really, really good.
When I would be really worried for the future of STO is when they stop bringing in actors to do voiceover. That's probably when I'll be very worried about the future of STO.
But AI is so much cheaper.
Yeah.
Won't they get some sort of licensing problem if they tried that one?
Depends on the actor.
I mean, just imagine they were doing lines for Patrick Stewart by AI. And I mean, technically, of course, they could, but I'm pretty sure someone would get mighty pissed.
Wasn't that part of the whole strike last year or the year before?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
And I'm on the side of the actors on that one. I mean, of course, technically speaking, it's cheaper. But then again, I mean, this is what they earn their money with. And someone basically steals it. And the problem is that the entire art creation industry, our entire culture thing is not ready for that kind of thing. It would wreak havoc.
People looked the same at Photoshop back in the day because you'd lose the industry of people actually airbrushing and paintbrushing art. So I'm a bit on the fence in it. I personally feel that AI is fine when you're doing like fan projects, like mods, because like, you know, you're not going to be able to hire Patrick Stewart.
Exactly, when there's basically no loss. It's the same idea with all those copyright infringement stuff where they always make it sound like you would totally have bought this game. Yeah, no, I wouldn't, because I don't have the money. You didn't lose a cent because I would never have bought this game, but nevertheless, they assume this. And same goes, of course, for those fan projects. Yeah, I mean, the only thing where I can think this is a valid point is if your mod is more successful than one of their professional products. And to be honest, if this is the case, then they deserve it. Then they deserve that they don't make any money with their crappy game. Because if it is not better when you do it professionally, having a staff working for 2 years on that, then something is very wrong.
Speaking about fan projects, there's another big fan project on the horizon. Max, I heard something from you, especially. What can you tell us from your corner of the internet?
Well, you know, I knew for a while that Sins 2 was on the horizon, and very excited what it could do. And of course, we had Armada 3, Ages as a Federation, and still Star Wars Strike Groups yet to be released for Sins 1. And for Sins 2, we just thought, like, why the hell not do Star Trek Armada 4? I mean, we did 3, might as well make a sequel to our own mod. So that's been well in development, secretly, mostly for over a year. We've been making models, or at least I've been making models, and some of my teammates have also been making a whole bunch of models to get those ready for when the game released, and we're now slowly porting them to the game. We got some really cool features in Sins 2 that I'm really happy about. It's one of them is, for example, each ship can have a registry. So we have the Galaxy class currently has 30 unique registries in the game that will randomly spawn with it whenever you build one, and it'll also have a voice line where it says, like, this is the USS Dauntless standing by. But yeah, the engine, it's wow, it's like having modded at this point more than a 10-year-old game and going to the sequel, which is super mod friendly. It's got me super excited, and the rest of the team as well.
I wonder how much content could you use from Sins 1? Is it basically
0.
plug and play, or okay, everything from scratch?
Well, sounds like torpedo sounds, phaser sounds. Even those we're making better. Though, like I'm having like little variations of each photon sound, or you get a little swish at the end or stuff like that. But that's really all we got to work with. Like everything's being built from scratch to set up to hold to the new quality that we're doing. Right now, one of my teammates, Connor, just finished Space Dock and is working on a regular station, and like it's going to be like modular, so you can buy all the upgrades, so you can get the bits from the orbital office from motion picture. You can get it as like Starbase 357 from DS9, and some other custom variant bits as well to make it more interesting. But yeah, everything's built from scratch. Like the Galaxy class textures are 2 4K textures. That's not something that was possible back when we were doing Armada 3. My computer probably wouldn't have been able to handle those kind of textures back in the day. Definitely not editing them in Substance Painter.
Oh yeah.
As the noob here, can you still use the same tools to create the models, or is this also completely new for you?
No, I still use 3ds Max to create the ships. My texturing techniques personally have evolved, and the rest of the teams as well. Like we no longer just straight up draw everything in Photoshop. There's a lot of Substance Painter being used, especially you're working with PBR here, so it's a lot more easy to see what you're doing at that point as well. And it also makes work a lot faster and easier. Things like dirt and grime, all those little things get like automatically generated. It's no longer like manually drawing stuff in, a lot of that sort of thing. So yeah, there's been some evolution there, but it's kind of evolved as the game industry itself kind of has evolved to like. These are at this point close to industry standard tools that they use. The modeling program is still like whatever you prefer.
Of course, I have to ask, when will it be done? Before Christmas?
Well, just because you asked, I'm now going to delete 3 files. As is tradition on our Discord. You ask, we delete files.
I always wondered how that went.
As long as it's 3 times the readme, I'm totally fine with that.
But no, we have absolutely no release date yet. Like, we have a whole bunch of Federation ships in. We just added our first Cardassian ship as well. But not even close to thinking about release. Like, we still have to do all the balance, all the research, tech tree, abilities for ships. Like, we have some ideas dotted down. Of course, there's going to be a whole bunch of like references, of course, to like the original Armada. So we're trying to have as many of like certain abilities that came in Armada 1 and 2 back. We're not trying to look as much back to Armada 3 because we have a different vision at this point and kind of what we want and how we want the game to play. But you can expect at least to see the little things like, the chain reaction pulsar, the kind of tricobalt-ish torpedoes that the Steam Runner had, that sort of thing we do want to bring back.
We will also have the perfect tennis player in the galaxy, a Sovereign, which can return every incoming shot.
I don't know. We haven't looked into if that's possible. We can do damage retaliation where it does damage back. But we don't know if it's actually possible right now to have the actual torpedo bounce back. Could be something to look into.
Great, because Sovereign needs this ability. I know Saturn loves it.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it needs to be nerfed a tiny little bit. It's really ridiculous when you run with one Sovereign through a bunch of torpedo throwing thingies, and they don't have a scratch, and at the same time they wreak havoc on everyone, and it's one lousy ship. One. This, in my opinion, is bad game design because really it doesn't get a scratch. There is not like 5% damage or something. It just gets nothing.
it was only torpedoes that it bounced back. Like anything, like phasers would still just hit it. So it's very specific, No, it was.
Nope. I did my testing. I tested all the weapons. The pulse phasers, they are not getting reflected, and a number of special weapons still do their thing, but a whole lot of things just get thrown back, like the commando of the Sugyar and stuff like that. And at times it's really ridiculous. Like, okay, this is basically an invincibility thingy here.
I mean, that was the idea.
5 or 10% damage, I could understand, but 0? Really?
I mean, everything will need to be balanced to work in the game. So,
what I would really love to see in a game would be some rock, paper, scissors mechanics. Like, okay, there is not the one unit that you just have to build in masses.
That's definitely something we're doing. I can tell you that, like, we haven't jotted it down, but we've got a team member, Sovereign Echo. He's in charge of code and balance as well, and he knows what he's doing. He will not make gameplay boring where there's one ship. There will no longer be like the Nova spam that was a really effective tactic like in STA3. Like, every ship has a purpose and has a reason for being there, and every ship also has a weakness. It won't be as simple as rock paper shotgun. I was going to say rock paper scissors, but there will be a need for every ship type.
Awesome.
Do you still have the limitation of how many ships you can give a faction? The ship slots, in basically?
Not really. No. There's unlike Sins 1, where every ship had a certain entity type, so you had an entity type for a capital ship, you had an entity type for a cruiser and a frigate, and a support frigate had to have certain lines in the file. Everything is now a .unit file. Like, even a starbase is a .unit, and a research station is a .unit, and every single property of those unit files are interchangeable for each. So, for example, you could make a ship that is a trade port, which is actually in the stock game, but you can also have it be like a culture station. It could function as your homeworld, and you could also, you can go really crazy. Like, I've seen somebody who made a ship that fired missiles, and the missiles are also units, and the missile was a trade port and also had turrets on there. So you can go really nuts to see what you want, and there's also a lot more ways that we can like limit how many of each you can have. So, for example, we just started messing with heroes, and unlike in Sins 1, where it was just like, oh, you spawn it and it spawns only once, but if you happen to just get it within the tick rate, you can secretly spawn 2, which somehow the AI always managed to do. We can now just say, like, hey, you have a hero? Yeah, you can just have 1. Or you can only build so many of this type of station around the planet. Or you can only build so many of these in the gravity well of a star. So there's a lot more that we can do in terms of just units in general compared to Sins 1. There's a lot of creativity there. We can have ships that are... it's one of the things take this all with a grain of salt, because none of this will be final, but I had an idea in my head to bring back the Jem'Hadar supercarrier from Dominion Wars, but unlike that it would launch them as fighters, you would actually be building bug ships on the fly. But that's still very early in design, so that might not make it, but it's something I want to look into, seeing if it's fun and possible to do. It's still technically possible, but fun is another thing, of course.
I bet this makes it also very interesting to model factions like the Borg.
Yes,
which are essentially not having yards or something in the classic sense, but do things, kind of on the fly, anywhere, anytime.
One of the really cool things they've done is, I don't know if anybody here has played Sins of Solar Empire 2, but there's a faction in the stock game which is the Visari, and instead of a capital shipyard, they have what is called a fleet beacon, and it functions just like a shipyard. So you click it, there's the build bar, and there's, it takes so much time, you got your supply costs, but once it's done building, it doesn't fly out the shipyard, it warps in from deep space. So that's something I'd definitely personally be looking into for the Borg, and that's also what we're using for the heroes right now. So when you build the Enterprise, Picard warps in, and he doesn't just like fly out a shipyard.
I mean, it's kind of funny because this is theoretically the whole idea behind those Protoss units in StarCraft. You don't actually build a unit, it's being warped in. Reminds me pretty much of that, but no one really notices that because it looks like it's being built. If this is really like it pops in and it's just there, that'd be cool. Like a real warp in.
Yeah, it's there. There's no pop in it. Actually, you see it coming in from outside the thing. It's really cool.
Awesome.
In general, I think it sounds amazing what the Sins of a Solar Empire 2 engine is offering you guys. And wait to see it in action.
There's also the developers are also very pro modding. So there's some channels in our Discord where you can put in modding requests, like features that you want to see. And there's already been a bunch of my requests that have gone through and have made my life easier. One of the more recent ones was that child meshes are visible during construction, which basically is child meshes are what we use for the nebula pods, for example. Like, yeah, you can. Oh, yeah, that's something you'll love to see. You build a nebula, it by default has a triangle pod, but when you install a component, it swaps that pod for the Phoenix pod, the round pod. There's a whole sorts of stuff we can do with that.
Like I said, sounds amazing. Then, of course, we have another big player in the Star Trek gaming community where we can't sadly talk much because nobody from that community side is here today. Stellaris, Star Trek New Horizons, is a very big project, and they released recently a new sub-mod basically where you can start in the TNG era, so you don't have to grind up from Enterprise era. But yeah, I would say, since nobody is here from that community, we move on and talk also a little bit about events. Of course, we have here the Star Trek September, where we play all the classic games, but I know Winters always hosts many, many different events. What do we have in store for the next few months, for example?
So within Priority 1, we'll have our annual Halloween costume competition coming up at the end of next month. We haven't finalized the details yet. In fact, actually, the only thing we really know is the theme. This year, it's going to be your favorite Star Trek villain. We want people to come as their favorite Star Trek villain, and we'll be judging the entries on that. So we're really looking forward to that.
Can you give us a hint? What is your favorite villain?
That's a tough question. Because I want to say Gul Dukat.
My man.
But I'm thinking Kai Wynn is like, the one you love to hate. Just everybody loves to hate Kai Wynn.
I mean, there's so many to pick. Yeah, nice little pun here. There's so much lore you can pick from.
Honestly, somebody should just dress up as Safi Larson. She's technically the villain of Bridge Commander.
I would really go with a cheat code here. I just choose Jeffrey Combs.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's what's coming up in Priority 1. Like I said earlier, within Star Trek Online, the autumn event is going on now at the minute. That's barely a week that's started or been going on for. After that, then we're going to go into the Halloween event in Star Trek Online. And then part 6 of the event campaign should be in November, and then finish off the year with the winter event in Q's Winter Wonderland.
Max, I wonder, do you guys host any events on your Discord?
Not really. With the strategy games, also a bit harder to do. We have our occasional screenshot competitions that get organized by our amazing community manager, Hannah. She's the best. But other than that, we don't really do any real events. So I'll usually go like, "Hey guys, I'll be streaming in an hour," and people will join, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's about the same thing on my Discord.
Just a second here. NerfGunCharlie is in the chat, and he would like to join us. I send him the invite. In the meantime, maybe you guys tell me about your different Discords. What is your community basically?
So my Discord is mainly Star Trek Armada, Armada 2 people. We do have Sins of a Solar Empire. It's mainly just a community, just to hang out, show off what you got, ask questions, hang out. I know Max is there, and you are there as well, and a couple other people. It's mainly just to hang out, have fun, talk to people, and show off what you got. Captain Cisco, who's working on a sort of TMP mod for fleet ops, and then like I said, NerfGunCharlie, he's got his project where he's updating future tense so that way it'll actually run with the GOG version of Star Trek Armada 1, and he's almost done with it, I want to say. He's been pushing through it real quick, and now he can just tell you himself about that if he just popped in.
Yeah, hello there. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are y'all?
Not bad. Nice evening here.
Yeah, the time difference between us, that I do apologize on the scheduling aspect of that. it's scheduling, because by the time I'm normally ready to be able to do anything like this, I think it's like 2 or 3 in the morning for you guys, and that's just absurd. I don't want to do that to you guys.
That's the problem of having a global Star Trek community. That's also nice. Yeah, since you're the new guy here and you were just mentioned, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. I go by NerfGunCharlie. Had a few handles over the years. I think the first one I ever went by, because he was my favorite rapper in the 90s, was Warren G123 back on the old Armada Fleet Command forums. So I've been a part of those since 04. I'm part of the Future Tense team. I think I've kind of resurrected that project, thank goodness to GOG. But I also did Legacy of the Federation. I released that this year. It's an evolution mod for A1. And I did a Mirror Universe version called Rise of the Terran Empire for it. And right now it's Future Tense, and I wanted to resurrect a few other projects, just honor some old work that people have done. Now that the GOG version is stable for A1 and A2, there has been mention of us taking some of this to Fleet Ops. So looking into that, but I'm really an old school Star Trek gamer. Encounters, Shattered Universe, Legacy, a lot of those older games, I think some of them get a little underappreciated, and then some get the right amount of appreciation and just need a remaster.
I really wonder.
Shout out to Star Trek Legacy.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. That's how I really started getting better in my modding career. As Legacy. It was Ultimate Universe mod. I was one of the 3D modelers back then, when I was young.
When we all were young.
Oh yeah, I think I was 16 when the game came out.
Talking about age, I really wonder, do all the tools for Star Trek Armada still work?
They do and they don't. Thankfully, I was able to get a Windows 11 machine. So, I mean, I can make everything work with GOG. However, the one thing I've noticed is the map editor and Storm 3D typically are not really handy / usable on the latest versions of Windows, like Windows 11 or the latest patches, Windows 10. I'm not sure if that's resolution issues when it comes to using GOG, but I happen to have 2 older machines that aren't really connected to the internet. They're still using Windows 10, but I can still use Map Editor, Storm 3D, everything else just like it's normal.
I think Storm 3D only has a problem with the DLLs being used for the DirectX stuff that GOG added. If you take the CD version and place the Storm 3D tool in there, it will work. But of course, you cannot really run the CD version itself, so it's kind of messing around with both. But I had this issue as well when you use the GOG version with Storm 3D, it will not work.
Yeah, and that's what I'm using right now. Is I have a CD version that it's working on a laptop, and everything with that, as far as Storm and everything, works fine. It's just because of some, I don't know if it's the graphics card patches or whatnot, the game lags out on the CD version, but it is enough for what I need to do for Map Editor or Storm 3D to modify models or get maps made for various projects. So I mean, I have workarounds, but I think as we're going forward, unless someone is feeling froggy and wants to recode those, I think we will come to a point where GOG will be the only option, and the current versions of those add-ons will not work, sadly.
Being again the annoying kid and impatient kid here on the blog, when can we expect a demo or playable version of Future Tense? I'm really curious about this project.
Well, this started with a good buddy of mine and friend, Adam Kitchen. He's out of the UK. He started this back in 05, 06, and he brought me in. My first job on the mod was special weapon creator. But over time, people have left the team and come back. I think right now, and Sam can attest to this, I think there's only about 4 people on the team left.
Right.
And it's me, Sam, it's Adam, and Dan, who has come back, and everybody else has just moved on, disappeared, including one of our big guys when it came to some of our coding and GUI enhancements. We haven't heard from him in about six years, I want to say. So all I'll say on that is I hope he's okay, because we don't know. But what we're trying for, like right now, I've gotten all the major patching done, linking wireframes, build buttons, fixing coding for our ODF structure and everything. I'm looking if everything goes smoothly, we're looking at a winter release of the mod. Now, ultimately, that's up to Adam as the project creator, but I think it's in a good spot. We should be able to release it this year, working in GOG smoothly for everything we're trying for. And then there's been discussion of, if we get to that point, do we want to bring it to Fleet Ops and take it to that next level? But right now, the biggest projects are we wanting to add in additional special weapons to races, shield rebalance, just a few minor mechanical things. And then because A1's single-player mission creator, I've yet to get all those programs to work, and I don't think they really are going to work on modern machines. I've been trying to tell stories through the multiplayer aspect, multiplayer instant action. So it's just battles. There's not like objectives or anything per se, but it kind of gives you windows into battles in the Star Trek universe. And I think we're going to try and tell the Future story through that and some cutscenes that Adam is going to create to kind of tie in with those. But
it just made me very curious. You say a tool to create a single-player mission for A1. Did I get that right?
There were tools that I was able to find of how they made those, but none of them I've been able to make work on a modern machine.
Okay.
So I mean, the tools are out there. It's just finding a machine, I guess, old enough where those can be run and created with all the proper scripting.
I mean, you could always try a virtual machine.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at next. But right now, I'm just doing my storytelling in the meantime in multiplayer. And I mean, it's not much, but it's better than nothing. The way I look at it, at least you get something there.
I mean, it was something that was bugging me all of the time, because especially A1 would really benefit from a few more single player missions, that are a little bit more elaborate maybe, or go into a different direction. And I was always thinking, okay, those guys that created Armada, they must have had some sort of tool, because you're not, pushing around bytes here. There must be some sort of tool. And I was always wondering, if someone ever leaked those or recreated a tool for this kind of job, because only you ever see, multiplayer maps doing things, but it's never really a mission. And this really makes me excited.
If I quickly may, if you guys look on the roadmap for Sins of Solar Empire 2, they are coming out with a story campaign, and if it's just as moddable as the rest of the game, you can expect us to make use of that. So
I would be excited to see what you guys come up with.
Personally, I personally kind of secretly want to recreate the Armada 1 storyline.
Please. Pretty please.
I don't know even if that would be possible at all, but that's just like a little thing. Like, part of me would love that, but there's also some other ideas in my head, like recreating some original, some battles from the series and stuff like that. Certain events, but
Battle for Chintaka.
And
we'll have to see how much is possible when it comes out.
And that's what I tried to do in my Legacy of the Federation mod. Was I was doing those battles like Chintoka or Sacrifice of Angels in multiplayer, and it's not as satisfying because there's not objectives, or you can't have the Defiant warp out at the end. But at least you get to fight in that battle. You get to experience, like, are we going to win? Are you not going to win? And the only thing I was able to do, and Sam's seen this, is I put in the README for it. Bonus objective: can you also beat this battle while this handicap is in place, kind of deal. So I mean, it's player-based handicaps, but it's kind of a challenge mode, and that's until we can figure out the A1 campaigns, or if we get something like an A1 campaign in Sins, in which case, all right, I'm all for that. Go ahead, Max, get it done.
Question for Max at that point: are you also able to modify the AI in a generalized fashion? Because this is one of the problems A1 has.
I have no idea yet. Like I said, for one, the idea is just to do something with the tools. Like, I personally want to recreate the Armada 1 campaign. Like, as a team, we haven't decided anything, so this is just me personally speaking. But if we're going to have story campaign, like we know we're going to have it like in Sims 2, but which form that is going to take, no clue. So I'd have to see when those tools become available, and when the DLC becomes available, what that will look like and what form that will take. So I reserve judgment and any decision making until that point in time, because I'd rather not make false promises I can't.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm staying tuned.
Same.
Well, then I would say we move on from the current state of Star Trek gaming, maybe a little bit to the future. We mentioned it, or you guys better mentioned it. It's a little bit hard sometimes to get in touch with different community members, especially those who are on some forums or have an email address which is long gone. For me, basically always was in the last few years the biggest enemy, that the community is so fractured. There are so many places, so many different Discord channels, it's way too much. And I wondered if you guys would have an idea how we could improve on that.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
We currently have 2,800 members on our current Discord, so let's see when they joined.
Yeah, and I think Discord is part of the problem.
Yeah,
It's a
because
discussion that-
anybody and everybody can create their own community.
I mean, this is okay in my opinion. This is still okay, but you don't know squat about it. You don't know anything. I can make up a Star Trek whatever Discord, and not ever knowing that there is actually another one already. So-
Right. Because there's no search feature, or
there's no phone book of sorts of Discord, and we actually had this situation in Armada a few times where people made up a server, and at some point find out actually there are already servers, and as the captain says, that the fracturing right now it really shows, and in part it's not to anybody's personal fault or something, and it gets in the way at times.
Oh yeah.
Especially it's very frustrating if you miss an event, and also for the organizer it's a little bit annoying if you have to post it on, let's say, 20 different Discords. It's way too much.
I mean, it was already this way when you have all these different face group communities as well. So it's, I think we're reeling from a luxury we had back in the day of Bridge Commander files, Armada files, which were all hosted by one big platform. We had the FileFront platform back before even it was like BC files, Armada 2 files, and that had like one central community forum. And I think, at least me, I'm longing back for those days, but I don't think there's a way to get that back anymore.
That's the unfortunate part, is that we can't, as the older generation of modders and everything like that, we've had that opportunity to see what having one community for all these projects was like, whereas now it's like, okay, well, there's so many different ways to find a project. Like, some people will post on ModDB, some people will post to specific forums, and that's all fine and dandy, but if somebody's looking for something specific, if they don't know where to look for it, how are they going to be able to find it?
Yeah.
Same goes for basically, getting multiplayer going or something. You're looking for players, and it's sometimes really difficult to see where actually is the action.
I think communities like the classic Star Trek gaming Discord is a good setup to go from there. And I also say, keep active on multiple platforms. Like, we also have a Facebook page. We also have we do a lot there. And we always reference our Discord, hey, if you want to know more about the mod, check out Discord. And then when we're going to try to do more YouTube streams, so then at that point you're already reaching a rather varied audience. But yeah, other than that, genuinely, I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't mind getting people pointed in the right direction. So if somebody joins classic Star Trek gaming and they want to talk about Armada, and notice that not many people really talk about Armada there, that's why I have that channel that basically just has a list of other Discord servers that they can click on and join.
Does any one of you guys ever tried the announcement feature in Discord?
Want to say that my co-admin Captain Cisco uses the announcements every once in a while. Usually it's nothing like for events or anything like that, but when James Earl Jones passed away last week, we did an announcement and so on and so forth. Just like things that we want people to know about that not necessarily they're going to find out any other way, if that makes sense.
I wonder if it would be possible basically to create let's call it an announcement network where you basically add all the different Discord servers and you just post there the information. For example, looking for a group in Star Trek Online or want to play an Armada session. So it would be much easier to reach more people.
I think that might get really spammy because there's a lot of communities, and I think when it gets posted, like you'll have like 15 messages an hour or stuff like that. When you get that in an announcement channel, you'll get people just going like, all right, I'm gonna mute that now because there's too much stuff.
Yeah.
No, it shouldn't be something which pings the entire community. It just should be a channel where you can basically look if somebody is interested in a game session.
So pretty much disable like an at everyone's situation.
Exactly.
So that way not everybody's getting spammed.
Exactly. It shouldn't be a spam fest. Just should be a group channel which is connected to different Discords. But I'm not sure if this is possible via the announcement features. It's a very clunky system.
You could do something like that, but it would have to be something that's like moderated, like the admins or moderators of every server linked to that would have to be the ones to post something, because you wouldn't want just any and every user posting to it.
Yeah. I also do feel like just keeping a good network of like what somebody else just said, like, you know, like, hey, check out these other servers if you like this, you know, with a little description of what each one is. So for example, you know, like, hey, do you like classic Trek games? Go to the classic Star Trek gaming Discord. If you like, modding Armada, there's the Armada modding Discord. And there's a Bridge Commander mod page and everything as well. Because I feel that would do really well as well. It'd still have the fracturing, but everybody would still have like kind of like an overall know-how of where to look, kind of like as somebody mentioned earlier, like kind of like a Star Trek Discord phone book, as a sort of say.
Yeah, and Abydos cartouche.
Yeah, Abydos cartouche. I love that.
Nice.
I mean, this is basically what this feels like. I'm on a number of those Discords, and what we always observe is there is kind of a hardcore of people, so 20, 30 people that are basically on all of those Discords. So they will probably get something when you post it.
We share 11 servers, 7 Saturn.
Yeah, and I can see this a whole lot, because when you're moving around in the Star Trek Discord realm, so to say, even I don't have all of them, because some games I simply don't have, and I already see that there is a really huge overlap. And the idea, for example, to say that the classic Star Trek games Discord is kind of the entry point, and if you want to go to a specific game, you need some more detailed support or something, please go there or something. It has a certain appeal, but as the captain says, if you want to get a match going or something, then you really have to, again, spread all over the place. And I can see this from a user's perspective as well. We have one guy that is posting on a number of Armada Discords. He's really active. He's really trying to push games, which I actually like. But when you as a user get 5 messages about the very same thing, after a while it gets annoying. And it's not due to the guy, but it's due to the situation.
Yeah, I would say outside of probably Armada and Elite Force, I feel like there's not, at least from what I can see, that much multiplayer activity going on for these other games. Or maybe I'm just not on the right Discord servers.
I think it's also with more like people that do play multiplayer usually have like a small niche of friends with which they play with. For example, I'm pretty sure that RPGX for Elite Force is still going on pretty reasonably strong, and that has a dedicated community, but you probably won't see them outside the RPGX community.
Yeah, so like I attempted to, like, at one point in time try to get games going for like Bridge Commander Remastered, but at some point there just wasn't that much more interest in it anymore.
I mean, I love Bridge Commander, but I was never into the multiplayer scene of that much because, well, it was 2001 and we barely had fucking internet where we were at. Oh, sorry, just internet where we were at.
So I was actually into the Klingon Academy multiplayer scene for a while, and I thought it was super fun.
I've played Klingon Academy. I didn't have it back in the day. I played that later, but like when I played, I was like, wow, I really, really missed out back in the day.
Yeah, I didn't even play during like the heyday of it. I joined like a couple years later when it kind of was dwindling down, but it was still fun. I'm trying to use Bridge Commander as like my substitute for that as best as I can.
There's something about Klingon Academy though. It's got this kind of feeling where it's very different than the other one than Bridge Commander or Starfleet Command. There's something raw about Klingon Academy, which I personally love. The story, of course, is really great.
I love the fact you could fly your spaceships with the joystick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be forever angry that Klingon Academy is not on GOG or Steam until that happens.
Oh yes, that would be amazing.
Especially since Starfleet Academy is already on there.
I think this might be a publishing issue because I think isn't Klingon Academy from the Simon & Schuster era?
Nope, Interplay.
Interplay. Wait, how is it not on there?
That's what I don't know, because like Starfleet Academy's on there, which is like the prequel to it. I mean, not really prequel, but it was like kind of in the same series almost.
Yeah.
And then like Starfleet Command 1 is on there. So there's a couple Interplay games on there already, but they didn't do KA. That's kind of weird how Starfleet Command 2, Empires of War, or Orion Pirates isn't on there.
Yeah, which is weird because with very minimal editing, it works on modern PCs as well. Like I've played it on at least Windows 10, so it runs, and I'm just, why isn't it on there? It's like, it's the best one, let's be real. I mean, I love SC3, but it was dumbed down.
I'm actually in the, one of the mods I've been working on with Bridge Commanders, I'm actually porting the Starfleet Command other races to Bridge Commander.
Those models, as much as I love it, but I've started modeling like stuff in a quality level now where I'm like, I could not go back to the less than 1,000 polygon or 10. Right? Example, right? Let me give you an example here. Connor has made a space dock model for us for Armada 4. It's the in-game model. This isn't some render model. It is 100,000 polygons. That's an in-game model.
Yeah, even loading these Starfleet Command models into Bridge Commander even looks dated. But I wouldn't say it looks horrible.
Oh, I wouldn't say it looks horrible. Like there's models from that time which just have an art style which, with people that really knew how to get the lower poly stuff look really good, which is a skill on its own. Like people like Rick Knox, P81, LC, 9 of 9, Cue Ball.
Oh yeah.
Like I think if you look at 9 of 9's Defiant, it still looks good.
Before we move on to the next subject, I also want to ask Winters, how do you guys in the Star Trek Online community communicate? Do you have multiple Discords, I guess, and you basically have a private channel to everybody?
On our Discord, like we have a channel where people can self-promote or, link to other Discords and stuff like that, and even people just doing their own streams and stuff, they can post, hey, I'm going playing Star Trek Online, or I'm going playing Star Wars or whatever, they can post and say that they're going live.
And is there much interaction between the different fleets?
It's actually been a good while since we've done anything with other communities. A few years ago, we had like an inter-community or inter-fleet PvP tournament. We actually had a few of them, to be honest, but we haven't really done anything recently, now that you mention it.
I guess it also doesn't help that even Star Trek Online doesn't have the old forums anymore.
Yeah,
I thought they still have the forums. I thought they still had that.
The forums are there, but honestly, I don't think they're used. Like,
the new website is so bare bone. It wouldn't surprise me that they nuked it.
Yeah. I remember when I started playing Star Trek Online, like I was using the forums all the time, and they were very active. But God, I haven't gone there in a really long time.
Does SDO have an official Discord?
Get out of my head. I was actually going to say on that a minute ago. I'm really surprised that they haven't done their own Discord. There's a ton of Star Trek Online Discords for all the various fleets and communities and stuff, but there isn't an official.
That really surprises me.
Yeah, it's they've missed a trick there, haven't they?
Yeah.
Because that could bring together a lot of different communities within the game if there was a common Discord for everyone to join if they wanted to.
Usually, and I'm going to use Elite Dangerous as an example, usually there's a group of people that'll run like the subreddit for a game, and that same group of people will then run like the official, unofficial Discord server for a game. Surprised something like that never happened.
Yeah.
Especially if you consider how many podcasts Star Trek Online had in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So the community activity level in Star Trek Online was always very high. But I guess maybe everybody waited always that Cryptic is basically doing the work for them. They always also announced that they will get a mobile app for the game, which never came.
Why? Oh no, please no.
This game has this amazing feature called Duty Officers and...
yeah, I mean, I guess for that, yeah.
And they wanted to have that for the mobile market, I guess.
I mean, that's what I thought they were always going to do whenever I looked up them, because it's similar to what World of Warcraft did for their app until they discontinued it with their latest expansion. It was for their version of Duty Officer and Admiralty, and then you'd have auction house access and what was it, guild chat, and that was it. Like there was nothing else there, and that seemed like a no-brainer for something like Star Trek Online, because you still have to go in the game to do it. Everything else.
I mean, you do have to consider that you are, of course, have to develop a mobile app, keep it up to date, have it connected to another account, connected to the game servers. Include all the security when it comes to that. I work in IT, so there's a lot of things like that. When I start thinking of that, like, oh yeah, that sounds cool, and then you realize, oh, that's expensive. That ain't cheap. For like the amount of people that would probably use it, it would not be worth the money probably to do that, or not be fiscally responsible for Cryptic to do it.
Not only that, but you have to consider the size of the dev team. I mean, like all ranks, it was only ever about 30 or 40 devs for Cryptic for Star Trek Online. I don't know what it's going to be for Deca, if it's going to be bigger, smaller, or the same. But yeah.
I'll put money on smaller, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll put money on smaller as well.
But like, it's a really small dev team. Like that is a very small development team for a game that as big as Star Trek Online.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when I used to play EVE Online. Mind you, it was very, very basic, but they did have a mobile companion app. Like, you couldn't play the game or anything like that, but if you were, your character was idle, you could make the character do like research tasks or something like that, if I remember correctly. But that amount of, thought to go into that is probably astronomical.
I just looked up on Google that they had a prototype. I forgot that completely. Stowe Gateway, it was called.
Oh, the Gateway.
Sorry, it just made me think like somebody just said when you idle in EVE, and I'm like, isn't that the entire game?
It is the entire game, yes.
Yeah. No, I remember the Stowe Gateway back when I played, because that was, you couldn't even do that much in there, but you could at least see your currently, I believe it was your currently selected starship and the equipment on it, and then your bridge officers and the equipment on them. And I think there was maybe one or two other things, and that was about it. But I was like, this is just expand on this a little bit, and this is fine. People like having it. And I remember when they sunset it, it's like, well, that's kind of sad. Then again, my greatest horror for STO is they took away the Foundry.
Yeah, I mentioned that already.
I mean,
yeah,
as good as it was, I saw it being abused a lot, and I may have used the Foundry at times to farm gear.
I mean, no doubt. I mean, there was Foundry missions just, you want this achievement? Just do this for like 2 minutes and you'll get the achievement.
Yeah.
Or, here's an easy energy credit grinder, a million EC every minute or some nonsense. I remember those. Yeah. It's just I had to hunt through those to find what, honestly, if they had just taken the missions that were created and put it in their own flair and cutscenes, they could have been easily ported into the game as actual missions, and there would have been no complaints from anybody, to be honest. It's just those little gems in the rough.
I'd put money that it was entertainment lawyers that threw the spanner in the works there with that idea.
I don't think it was. I think it was because basically the Foundry was really hard to maintain. It was its own separate piece of code, and that really didn't work well with anything they added to the game. It was the spaghetti code issue.
Oh no, I'm saying porting missions over to the game, when they sunset the thing. Like there was probably some legal thing. But you are absolutely right why they sunset it. Because every time they do an update, it'd knock out the Foundry because it wouldn't be up to date. So then they would have to go back into the Foundry a couple of weeks later, update all the assets with the new stuff that they had just done a couple of weeks earlier. And basically it was tuned into development time, and they said it was not worth it, basically. And they were like, look, we're sorry, but we're shutting it down.
Speaking about old content, another big topic for me is preserving Star Trek gaming history. That's also why I'm doing all the interviews on my channel. As you guys know, we lost so much already. So many websites are down, so many mods can't be played anymore because the files are gone or broken, whatever. So I wondered, how much do you still have? And would it be up to share everything so we create a bigger collection and maybe put it up somewhere?
I'll go first with this one. So we had already talked about when you and I sat down and did the video about Stargate, about how I want to create a space where that all that information can be stored and saved, whether it be a mega upload file or a website itself. But stuff like that, it costs money to maintain, and try to get people to commit to supplying the mods that they have. I don't even know how much gigabytes worth of files for Armada or SFC or anything like that. But if anyone and everyone who has the files is willing to share and get it uploaded into this upload or whatever, then anybody who has a link would be able to have access to it, and it would be a way to preserve all of that information.
I think what you just said is an important part, because I have already come across mod pages where they actually expect you to create a account to just download a mod, not putting one up, not commenting, just downloading it, and you already want your email address. And I'm really allergic to this kind of code of conduct. It's the content of someone else, it's someone else's work, and they already try to rip you off something. And this would be something that I would find really important, that the barrier to access information should be as low as possible.
Why is creating an account taking something from you?
It's again another email address out there. Someone can verify this one is real. Essentially, you don't know what they are doing with it, and it is unnecessary at this point. That's actually the problem. It's not necessary. It's like those software packages. Yeah, you have a free trial, but we want your credit card. Why do you need my credit card for a free trial? Makes no sense.
I think an email address is a bit different. I think it's not that bad, but for example, like Nexus doesn't need it, but you'll just get slower downloads if you don't.
Yeah.
That's okay, in my opinion, but really being blocked, like you can't even see it, you can't download it at all. Really weird if it comes to content that was done by someone else.
I personally haven't seen any websites like that weren't shady to begin with.
Exactly.
Never use, but then just don't use them and they'll die out by themselves.
Yeah, the funny part is that people are putting something on there. That's the point, If it were just, okay, I could use this platform, but I won't use it, okay? But then there are guys out there, like for Phoenix Point, where they put their mod on there, and it's only there. And you can always say it will die out, all fun and games. But what I'm getting at is, don't make this your focal point of effort when you try to preserve something.
I agree with you there. My biggest, I wouldn't say concern, but coming from the Armada community where we had people, well, I mean, not even so much that we had people, but like certain people would pop up and grab whatever files from wherever, and that's totally fine. You can go ahead and do that. But then repost those files as their own. That's where I want to say that the gray area comes into effect with having a registered member, and you have to be a registered member to be able to download, comes into place, because you wouldn't necessarily want to put in all this work and then see it pop up a month down the road and somebody else said, oh yeah, I did all this work, and you're like, but wait a minute, I did that work.
I mean, I've seen the other side of this as well, where people were going crazy and just go like, all right, we just got everything from FileFront, and we're going to upload it to Nexus mods, all including the original README, never claiming it was their own. I think they even made an account just called like FileFront Backup, so, you know, just like, hey, this is a backup from FileFront file. But, you know, I feel that's fine, especially when you're talking about a decade-old mod where the last email address in use was xxsniper23xx@hotmail.com, which it hasn't been used for the last 15 years or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or that person no longer even has the login info from. Or, you know, I feel that that's valid. I mean, there's a certain point where a mod gets old enough where the amount of effort there is to get into contact with the original author, you know, I feel it's fine, especially if you include the original README. And I seriously doubt that there is anybody in the community going around claiming 10-year-old mods as something they created.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's just one of those things, like, that's something that I have seen pop up. Whatchamacallit, with Stargate Invasion, we had this, mind you, this was 10 years ago now. We had, well, we're sitting there and like I don't know if you remember Jay Taylor PCS. He had come to me one day and was like, hey, did you notice that some of our models are in this Space Empire 4 game? I'm like, what? And so I go to the website, and sure enough, there are some of our models. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I reached out to the creator of the mod, and I was like, hey, you know, what's going on with this? And instead of, you know, communicating with me or anything like that, I apparently spooked the guy, and he just shut down everything. Like,
oh, we've had that as well. We've had another mod completely take all the Armada 3 models, and when prompted to like, hey, what's going on here? They said like, well, you don't own the copyright to the Enterprise. And I'm like, yeah, but I own that model. That's mine.
Yeah, that's exactly where it comes down. And then I actually got in an argument with some of those people. They're like, well, this game is so much older than the game that you're working on. You probably stole this work. It's like, excuse me?
It's like, no, I have the original files right here. I have my source files.
Yeah.
I mean, that's happened since, like, that also happened, like, back in 2001. You always had people taking other people's work. I do feel fringe cases, though. The community usually retaliates against those kind of mods as well, especially when they find out they've been taking somebody's stuff wholesale. But, you know, I feel it's a kind of community solved problem where, you know, if it happens, the community itself will go like, hey, that's not cool, guys. Especially in this day and age.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to create a membership base like you have to be a member to download. It's more of, hey, it's kind of like a Patreon situation where, you know, you pay one of, you know, the group of us to maintain this mega file, because some of the time it's not cheap. Like, especially if you're talking, if everybody that you knew that had, let's say, 100 different mods, and you have 30 people that you know, and some of those mods are, you know, a gigabyte worth of information if they're total conversions or whatnot. That is a lot of money, and if you're expecting one person to drop that chunk of change every month to maintain the file or to maintain the upload, like, that's where I'm like, I personally would be like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't maintain that. I've got a wife and, you know, 3 kids that I almost forgot about my 3rd kid. Holy crap.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the worst part is he's 3 years old. Anyway, but I've got a wife and 3 kids, and like, that's money that I'm taking from my family to be able to host this. And I have a good job, but I don't have that great of a job to be able to do that. And no one person should be forced into a situation to preserve all this. Like, it should be a community effort. And so like a Patreon or something like that for maintaining the files is great.
And
Question.
there's also the personal aspect. We have seen this in a few Discords. If everything is tied to one person, what keeps that person from, shutting down all of it?
And
Yeah,
The single point of
completely agree with
failure aspect is also very dangerous.
I 100% agree with you there. And the only thing that I would say that makes it kind of iffy would be the maintaining of the money aspect. But like, you could do a email address that multiple people have access to maintain it. But again, it comes down to, like, I mean, you probably set up like a PayPal or something that everybody would the group running it would have access to, so that way not one person can control all of that, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's how we do our we have a Patreon for Stellar Parallax. One thing we clearly mention is like, hey, this is not to get early access to the mod. This is not
Right.
for us to do Star Trek mods. This is for us to do mods for games, and as a team, we have that managed really well. And we also usually use it to pay for like our software and other things like that.
Right, and I think that is the best solution in my book. Is that's the way to maintain that checks and balance, where you're not relying on this one person who could, decide to go morally bankrupt and be like, you know what, screw this, I'm taking all this money and I'm running away. It's a way to prevent that from happening, because then other people have access to it and be like, okay, well, wait a minute, where's this going, and da 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 da, and have it set up to where it's not hooked up to a bank account. I'm pretty sure you can set up PayPal like that, so that way not one person can run off with that money.
I mean, if people are going to scam, they're going to scam. So nothing's foolproof, obviously. But
Completely agree with you there. I'm not going to argue that point, because I completely agree. But it's another way, like I said, to hopefully make people think otherwise to do that.
So, is Gamefront not a good solution, at least for the circle of games surrounding like Bridge Commander, Armada, Elite Four, Starfleet Command 3, or is the question primarily aimed at games outside of that circle that may not have like a Gamefront page or whatever?
I don't trust Gamefront since they shut down the first time.
The problem with Gamefront
Bingo.
right now is that, yes, they do have all that stuff, but they don't have all of it. Like, there was a lot of data when they shut down originally that got lost. I can't think of anything specific off the top of my head. I know that if Star Fox were here, he'd be able to give you specific. But there was a lot of files that were lost that people are like, okay, but I wanted to play this, and now I can't find it because it doesn't exist. And that was the whole thought process behind our admin group on my Discord, talking about preserving and everything, so that way everybody would have access to it. But like I said, it comes down to how much it's going to cost to maintain.
Also, I would say it's not only about maps and mods. There's so much more community created stuff out there. If I think about the many different podcasts which were created for Star Trek Online, there's so much work there, which is still a little bit here. We could still preserve it in some way. But maybe Winters, do you know, is the Priority 1 podcast still active in the sense of archiving?
Yeah. So, believe it or not, there is actually still a Patreon page for Priority 1 podcast. And we have a small number of dedicated, loyal patrons. And it's paying for the server space to keep the archive up there.
Okay, at least that is there.
Anybody remember the old Hailing Frequencies podcast?
Oh, that was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I remember winning a signed Star Trek Legacy poster with the autographs of all the developers. I should still have it somewhere, but there was another one. What was it called again? It was with Victor First and some other people. Does anybody remember the name of that podcast?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So we're on the Star Trek Legacy time. Those are some good years, right? Like anything like like late 90s to like mid 2000s. Like that was like the golden year of Trek, the golden years of Trek games.
Absolutely.
I guess maybe the first task maybe should be that we share everything we have. I have, for example, many different Armada mods. I know Saturn has many maps for Armada and Elite Force. We should maybe start that we share each other the files and then discuss where to put them. Especially, we mentioned it shouldn't be that one person have everything, because if my flat is burning or the truck is hitting me, yeah, I'm gone. And all the files.
Exactly.
It's probably how some of those files got lost to begin with.
I know of a couple of modders that passed away. If their content is gone, then one of my own team members actually passed away. Chris Knight, he
Oh, wow.
He did a whole bunch of our models. He did the Defiant for Armada 3, the Monex Shipyards, the Unity Station.
Oh, wow.
I remember sitting in, I was on my way from work and home, and he just got a phone call from his brother, like, hey, you're Max? He's like, yeah. I'm the brother, and he passed away in a motorcycle accident. Like, spoke to the guy like 2 days before.
Yeah, it's. I did the when I found out about Josh Taylor, J Taylor PCS. I knew he was sick. He had HIV and everything like that, and it was still a shock. Like, I mean, I knew that it was going to happen eventually, but like finding out, like his sister had sent out a message and sent me a text message saying, "Hey, just so you know, he passed away," and it was very just all of a sudden. Like I knew he was doing bad, but at the same time, like he was playing it off like he was doing better, and it's still, even if you know it's going to happen, it's like
it'll still hit you like a ton of bricks.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Also, that should be in some form be archived. Does anyone know Khan Noonien Singh? And I, of course, don't mean the character. I mean the amazing website about Bridge Commander.
No?
I do.
Yeah, because you know everything what I know about Star Trek. It's basically a database about the majority of Bridge Commander clans and some players. And yeah, it would be amazing to have also that information, who did what mod. Maybe people can then find again us.
Angelfire.com. Now that's a domain I haven't heard in a long time.
Why is that website still up, honestly?
How's Angelfire still a thing? Holy.
I had an Angel Fire site back in the day.
Who didn't?
I remember
Right? It was a thing.
I remember like you could only upload images, so I would upload mods as like image formats and be like, you can download this, you just have to rename the extension to .zip.
The good old days.
I mean, I still, you know what I miss? I miss BC Files picture of the day thing.
Oh, that was so much fun.
I miss GameSpy Arcade.
Welcome to GameSpy.
That's the word.
The launching sound was amazing.
I miss the old, I mean, I still have them on CD, so I still have them. I miss the old launchers for like the Activision Trek games, which had a little LCAR installer and then like the little LCAR load list launch menu.
You mean the CD launcher?
Yeah, the CD launcher, yeah, the auto run.
Autorun, that was the name.
All right, so does anybody remember the old Bridge Commander mod installer, the BCMI, which was also like completely an LCAR style? And like when you started up, it had all like systems online and like,
Yup.
It's funny, like, by the way, the track that we used in Armada 3 and Armada, we're reusing it now in Armada 4 as the main menu theme, is actually the same one they use in Fleet Ops, because of the nostalgia that's just personally attached to me. Like, feeling wise, it's like, yeah, I gotta get the track back in there.
I don't blame you. I really don't blame you.
It's from Elite Force, actually. It's a track from Elite Force. I think it's one of the briefing tracks.
Oh, really? Huh.
I mean, as I think most of the older games, like they had Danny Pelfrey. I think it was Danny Pelfrey as composer.
Well, guys, then I guess we end slowly. Maybe to the new guests here. Since we last year talked a lot about what we want in a new Star Trek game, I think it's only fair that you also get the chance to give us your wishes.
Yeah, just give me Bridge Commander 2. Like, I'd be happy.
So, Are you familiar with the game Star Wars Squadrons?
Yes. Oh, I love that game. It's a shame
It wasn't.
died.
It had a really neat concept, and it was super fun when it first came out. But the one time EA should have done a games as a service game and then chose not to, basically killed the longevity of it.
Yep.
But as somebody who likes PvP games, I would definitely like a PvP focused Trek game like that, where it's basically ship simulator.
Hear me out. World of Warships, but Star Trek, like Starfleet Command style. Just battles. You pick a faction. No cross-faction gameplay. I don't. And also no customizing your ships.
I don't like the grindy aspect in World of Warships.
No, I'm just talking about the core gameplay, not like the grinding. I'm like talking about like run on a map. Every ship has a role. You have two fleets fighting it off. Because I think that slow gameplay shows that the slowness is something that people like to see.
Oh yeah.
It's not always about fighting, and I combine that with some elements of Squadrons. Speaking of Squadrons, real quick, I love that I played that game in VR, and it's amazing.
I could never get it to run with my joystick. I had so high hopes for the game.
Oh, I did. I got it with my hotels working, and holy shit, imagine that in VR. Like, you're just in the cockpit of an X-Wing or in a TIE fighter, and you're just looking around. It felt like you were there, especially since you didn't need the touch control. You didn't need the VR controls. I just used my flight stick, and when you know where all your buttons are, you just imagine that when you're making a swing turn around the ship, and you look to the left just to see where the enemy is. Oh man, now I want to play Squadrons again, but I just know the game's dead.
Well, I mean, it's like back in the day when I used to play Rebel Assault 2. Like, I know that it was on rails, but I loved the first mission when you're sitting there flying the B-Wing.
Never played that, so I wouldn't know. But perfect Star Trek game. I'd say, make a good mix of Starfleet Command and Bridge Commander. A bit more of the depth around Starfleet Command 2, the flight system of Bridge Commander, and the whole, actual bridge crew to talk to. I feel that would be great.
Are you guys familiar with the Starship Simulator project?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That one has potential.
Yes and no, in my opinion. Yes, I think the idea is really great. The premise is great. But I feel it'll suffer from the same problem that Bridge Crew has. That you need always a group of X amount of people to play it. Not everybody will want to play a certain role.
I think that game would work well if the game had dedicated servers and your ship was online 24/7 and you could hop in and
whenever.
If you're an engineer, you could just fix stuff on your own time or schedule events.
There was another game like that I used to have. I had one on Steam, which was also where you had a ship, but you could also have away missions. I'm trying to find it now. It's a bit janky.
Are you talking about Timelines?
No, it was a first-person game where you flew a ship. It was I think a procedurally generated universe.
Pulsar?
Yes, that's the one. Thank you. I had some fun in that, and also some nice horror aspects as well. Is that still on Steam?
It's still on Steam. It's a very good game. If you have a group of 5. If you don't, it's rough.
And I feel that's kind of the same issue that Starship Simulator would have. If you don't have a group of so many people, it won't work. And I feel that Bridge Commander lasted because the single player was so good as well. You had the quick battle where you could set up battles that you won. Kind of like what you have with Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts right now.
Pulsar desperately needed a modding scene. That way you could actually mod it into a Trek game.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Funny, it's still being updated, Pulsar. But I'd say, I think Bridge Commander mixed with some slight World of... I think, honestly, Bridge Commander mixed with Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, where you can customize your ship and you have a campaign with, a world map. I think that would be really fun.
I agree. We've got all these, all of our strategy game mods, for Sins of the Solar Empire 2, Sins of the Solar Empire, and then the work that's still being done with Armada 2 Fleet Ops. That's great and all. For me, personally, I would love to see a super in-depth, we're talking Bridge Commander, where you're flying the ship and everything like that, but not just have missions, just be able to go out and explore.
Yeah, a little semi procedurally designed open universe where you can do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. like, oh, let me go check out this star system. The Admiralty wants us to check in on it and see how they're doing and everything like that, and just go check it.
If only Star Trek Excalibur didn't die out.
I think it's kind of crazy how, like, for the people who really like these RTS games, like, you guys have had bukus of options for, like, Sins and Stellaris to, like, create these more modern Trek games using these newer games, but there hasn't been anything more modern for, like, an actual, like, in-depth, like, ship combat simulator since, like, the early 2000s.
I think Bridge Commander is the last good one that we had. I mean, Bridge Crew is really good, but again, that falls under the, you have to have 4 people thing. Like, I really love, like, I'm not a huge fan of the JJ Verse, but the main story where you're in Bridge Crew, it's great, where you're flying around, everybody has a task to do, combat's all right, and then the TNG stuff just, like, I wish they made that game a live service game. Like, imagine if we got, like, the Defiant or Voyager,
That'd be fun.
Like, if that game only came out like 3 or 4 years later, like where you have Star Trek Picard coming around and Lower Decks, at that point, the game might have gotten more support.
Oh, absolutely.
It is made by Ubisoft, though, so your mileage will vary.
It's published by Ubisoft. I mean, I will blame Ubisoft for what they do, but I'd rather not blame the developers for something that a publisher does.
Exactly. That's why you don't blame, the company that makes the game when Bethesda is your publisher.
You only blame
I think the crappy thing about that is, like, I can tell you that Ubisoft published Bridge Crew, but I couldn't tell you who actually made it without looking it up.
Oh, I've got Steam open here. Let's check it out. Star Wars, no Star Trek.
Same thing with Star Trek Legacy. Like, I remember Bethesda published it, but
it's Mad Dog, the original developer. of Armada.
Yeah, Mad Dog, who did Armada, did Legacy, which
is also very obvious if you look into it as a modder, because it is a very, very modified Armada engine. Funny enough, Bridge Crew is also developed by Ubisoft. So, Bridge Crew, is developed by Ubisoft.
Oh man!
So that explains a few things. So,
yep.
I think there's some, like, weirdness trying to even play Legacy. I think there's somebody in my Discord server now trying to figure out how to install it or something, and I don't think there's that many people who probably know much about it anymore.
Well, I was one of the main modders back in the day, but one thing I can tell you, by the way, is that that Legacy out of the box, you didn't need the CD to run it. You just installed it and it worked, and then that's it.
But they didn't have any fear that players would want to even touch the multiplayer because it was broken so soon after release.
I know, right?
Well, guys, I would say we close it finally off here. Basically, this would be the part of the video where I open the mic totally to you guys. Is there any subject you want to touch before we end it? Anything we missed?
What I would really like to touch is the source code of Armada 1. I would like to have my hands on that one.
As would I.
What, do you want to improve the pathfinding?
Or maybe doing something about the desyncs or something. I don't know.
No, I told you, that's the biggest enemy in the game. You never know when the big desync is happening.
Yeah, it's like if the Borg attack in, what was it, Birth of the Federation, when this happens, you're fucked.
Exactly.
It reminds me of Sins 1, where we also have desync issues, and now that Sins 2 is a thing, it's like, oh, so this is how it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I would love to get my hands on the source code to Armada 1, because it's such a fun game, and there was still so much that you could do without having to do so much modding. Like, there's so much that was possible that if you just knew what coding to type in or whatever, it would work. But having that source code, updating the game engine for modern games or modern ages, I would love that. Adding in proper shadows, casting shadows from other ships and stuff like that. I think that would be fantastic.
Well, just play Armada 3 then, and Armada 4 when it comes out.
Oh, I've played a lot of Armada 3, and I can't wait for Armada 4.
Well, I've got a couple of shout-outs I'd personally want to do. Is one, I'd like to give a shout-out to the entire team that I'm part of at Stellar Parallax. So shout-out to everybody there, Connor, Hobbs, Caesar, Donos, and the rest that I can't come up with right now at the top of my head. I'd also like to give a big shout out to the entire team at Stardock and Ironclad, who brought us an amazing Sins of Solar Empire 2, and with let's hope that development and support for it keeps going for many years to come. To everybody, by the way, get Sins 2, even if you don't do it for the Star Trek mods. It's just a great RTS, and considering the track record of recent RTSs, I think we really need a good one, which this one definitely is. And yeah, check out Star Trek Armada 4 on our Discord server. Get Sedaris to get a link for somewhere. And check that out. It should be fun.
You already have a Armada 4 mod database page? Or is this still in
We're
work?
not making a mod database page because Sins of a Solar Empire 2 has an in-game mod launcher through mod.io, which we will be using when we release it.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, no need to actually, upload it to ModDB. That helps us also to not have to manage an entire separate website.
That is true.
So now we just share all our images on Discord. We've got some official media, and people that are part of our Patreon get access to the behind-the-scenes channel. They see a lot of in-progress stuff. They see in-progress models, work-in-progress art stuff. So yeah.
Okay, guys, then thank you for joining us. It was a lovely discussion, and I hope next year we do this again, so we have always an update about the community.
I would love that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
100%.
Works for me.
Sounds good.
Then that's it for this video. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the games, and of course, play the game. Until next time.